Okay, we're going to get started on this hat. So to start with, you want to have a little bit of a longer tail with your yarn, so about that long. And we're going to work our normal slip knot here. Get that guy on our hook, and we're ready to go. So this hat is worked bottom up, and we are going to start with foundation, half double crochet. So to do that, you're going to chain 3, just like that. Yarn over. We're going to work in the 3rd chain from our hook and pull up our loop, 3 loops, yarn over again, pull through just the 1st loop, then yarn over again and pull through all 3 just like a normal half double crochet. So now we're going to work our 2nd half double crochet, or foundation half double crochet. So right there it looks like our little chain space. You're going to insert your hook, pull up your loop, so you have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through the 1st loop, yarn over again, and pull through the next loop. So we are going to work 72 half double crochets. Now normally the skipped chain 2 would count as a stitch, but for this pattern it is not going to count as a stitch, so don't even think about that chain 2. You're going to want to concentrate on the actual stitches. So we have 1, 2, and then you want to continue working half double crochet or foundation half double crochet until you have 72 of the actual stitch. So I'm going to continue to work my 72 foundation half double crochet stitches. Alright, so we've the 72 half double crochets. Now we're going to join it to create our circle because we want it to be a hat. So this is the wrong side of our half double crochets. This is the right side. So if you look at this stitch, as you can see, half double crochet is very interesting. So we're going to look at the right side here. So this is normally the front loop here. This is normally the back loop here. Now we have a 3rd loop. If you can see it, I'll turn it over. We are actually going to be working in the 3rd loop. So that's the unique thing with half double crochet. So what you'll want to do is have both your wrong sides touching. So fold it just so that like that, so it forms a circle. And we're going to skip the chain 2 here. So turn it over on the other side. There's the 3rd loop. And we are actually going to work a half double crochet because this is going to be continuous rounds. So I have my yarn over here, and I'm going to work a half double crochet in that 3rd loop. So just like that. And if you see, we have this crazy gap thing going on. That's why we have the longer tail. You don't need to worry about that, because when it comes time to finish your hat, what you'll do is, you thread your yarn needle and you just use that long tail. You cinch that guy closed, and the gap is gone. You don't even know it's there. So that's why I said that. I do have a method to my madness. So what you're going to want to do, because we are going to work in continuous rounds, we're not going to join with a slip stitch like a lot of times. I highly suggest putting a stitch marker in this last stitch here. Handy scrap of yarn to mark that guy. So now I know that's the end of my round. Yeah, okay, I can do this. Didn't want to go in. Alright, so now we're ready to begin. So this is stitch 1 for round 2. Continue to work half double crochet in the next 24 stitches. So we have 1, 2, and we're just going to continue until we have 24 stitches all together. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're working 24. So now we're at stitch 23 and 24. Okay, so I've worked my 24 half double crochets, and you can see it creates this neat raised effect here when you work in that 3rd loop. And now we are going to work 4 post stitches and half double crochet. So you yarn over. So this guy right here, we're doing front post, half double crochet. So you just work right around that stitch. So there is 1, 2, 3, and then we'll do stitch 4. Why did I chain 1? I don't know. Okay, don't do that. We're just working regular front post half double crochet. I just had a momentary lapse there, I guess, in what I was doing. Okay, I have my 4 post stitches. Now we are going to just continue to work work in the 3rd loop of half double crochet. So it's easy to kind of miss the next one after doing a post stitch. So you turn it over. Here's the stitch right here. So you don't want to miss that loop. So just pop it in and then work your regular half double crochet stitch, and then just continue working half double crochet stitches in that 3rd loop till you get to your stitch marker. Okay, so I'm almost done round 2. I'm at my stitch marker, so I'm going to pop that guy out, yarn over, and find that 3rd loop. So there it is, and work my last stitch for round 2, and I'm going to pop my stitch marker right back in there so we know where we are in the pattern. And now I'm going to work round 3. So here's the first stitch for round 3, and there's the 3rd loop, and we are going to continue to work our half double crochets in the 3rd loop until we get to our post stitches, till you get to our first post stitch. So just work your half double crochet in the 3rd loop until you reach the first post stitch, and then I will show you what we're going to do next. Okay, so for round 3 I've worked up into the first post stitch. So what we're going to do is we're not going to work a post stitch around this guy. We're going to work the regular half double crochet in the 3rd loop. So find that 3rd loop and work your half double crochet. Now we are going to post stitch around the next 4 stitches. So 3 of these guys you're working around the previous post stitches. So there's 1 front post half double crochet, 2, there's the 3rd. So now we're going to work the 4th here, the 4th post stitch, and now we are going to work in the 3rd loop again. So remember, it's easy to miss this guy here, so just make sure you don't miss working in the 3rd loop of that stitch. And as this one is a little bit crunched up, so there it is. Sometimes you have to do a little bit of detective work to find it, but it's there. Don't want to miss it or it'll just mess up your pattern. So we are going to continue to work our half double crochets around to continue or to complete round 3. Okay, I'm at my last 2 stitches for round 3. So there's the second to the last. Pop out my stitch marker. There's my last stitch, and I'll put my stitch marker back in. And as you can see, it just creates a nice seamless effect. And just remember that when it comes time to finish your hat, just take that long tail, connect that, kind of hide the chain 2 in there, and just fudge it a little bit there. But anyway, we are going to continue with round 4, and we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to work half double crochet up until we get to the post stitches. So this pattern is pretty simple, so a great pattern for, you know, if you want to do a binge watch on your favorite show. You don't have to concentrate too hard on it. Okay, I've worked up to my post stitches. So we are going to just work our regular half double crochet in the 3rd loop in the next post stitch, like that. And then the next 3 post stitches you'll work around. So there's the first one, second one, third post stitch, and then we'll work a post stitch around our next half double crochet. And now we're back to working regular half double crochets in the third loop. So find that third loop. Wants to hide a little bit, but gotta find it. And just continue working your half double crochets around for round 4. Okay, I just finished up round 4, so now I'm going to start round 5. So we're just going to continue what we've been doing, and what you're going to want to do is continue working the pattern as we've been doing until your hat reaches about 5.5 inches. So if you measure from the bottom here, the bottom band, till it's about 5.5 inches. Now if you wanted your hat slouchier, you can certainly work more rounds. It's completely up to you. And what you're going to want to do is you'll continue working your half double crochet in the third loop until we get to our post stitches. So you'll work in the third loop in this post stitch, work your 3 post stitches, and then work your post stitch in this 4th half double crochet, and then continue in the pattern. And what it's going to do is just create a slanted effect, just to add a little bit of interest to this simple pattern. Okay, now I'm ready to start my decrease rounds. My hat's about 5.5 inches, and I've actually worked 14 rounds, so you might have worked more, might have worked less. And now we're going to get ready to start decreasing on this hat. So what we're going to do is work in a sequence of 12, because we have 72 stitches. So how we're going to do that is, this is stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and now we're at stitches 11 and 12. So how we are going to work our decrease or together stitch is you're going to yarn over, insert your hook into that third loop, insert your hook into the next third loop, so now you have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through the 3 like a normal half double crochet, and that just creates a little bit of a neater look, neater and tidier than a typical half double crochet decrease or together stitch. I find that they tend to be a little bit bulkier, and that's not the look that we're going for. So this looks a lot more seamless. So now we're just going to do that again. So we're going to count in our sequence of 12. So 1, 2, 3. So we were at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, stitch 9, 10. Now we're back to stitches 11 and 12. So yarn over, pull up your first loop, pull up your next loop, yarn over through those first 2, and then yarn over for the last 3, and then we continue, and I'll show you, see how we are when we get to our post stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it works out for 11 and 12. So there we go, stitches 11 and 12. And when we get to the post stitches, you want to keep with the pattern. So we have 12. So this would be stitch 1. And now we're going to work our post stitches. So stitch 2, 3, 4, 5, And now we're back to the regular pattern. Find that loop that likes to hide sometimes. So, whoops. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and now we're back to the decrease stitch, 11, 12, and I'm just going to continue around till I get to my stitch marker. Okay, so I finished up for me what would be around 15, and we have a total of 66 stitches now after we did that decrease, so we are going to do the same thing, decrease again. So there's stitch 1, we're doing it in a sequence of 11, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then we're at stitch 9, and so for stitches 11 or 10 and 11, so that first loop, second loop, draw through the 2, draw through the 3. So I'm going to continue around, and I'm going to see how we are when we get to the post stitches, and I will show you what to do once we get to the post stitches. Okay, so we are at our post stitches, and looks like so far so good because this is stitch 9, so it doesn't interfere. So there's 10 and 11, and we're going to continue in our pattern. So here's 1, 2, now we work our post stitches, so here's 3, oops, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and now we're back to 10 and 11. So 10, 11, and then draw through. So I'm going to continue working in my sequence of 11. Alright, so I finished up what was my round 16, and now we're going to continue. I'm sure you guessed, so now we're at sequence of 10. So here's stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now 9 and 10. And I'm just going to continue, and we'll see where we are around the post stitches. Okay, so I'm close to these post stitches, and looks like so far so good. It doesn't affect the sequence, so we'll just continue with stitch 1, 2, 3, and then we're working our post stitches, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then here's number 8, and then the next two we work the decrease again, 8, 9, and 10. Alright, and I will just continue on with the pattern in my sequence of 10. Alright, so I just finished for me what for me would be round 17, and now we're working our sequence of 9. So I'm sure you've figured it out by now. So you would work 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, now we're at stitch 7, and then decreasing in 8 and 9. So 8 and 9, And I will just continue in the pattern and see where we fall in those post stitches. Okay, so now we are getting close to our post stitches, so let's see where we are here, because we want to continue in this pattern, so we might have to just do a little bit of tweaking so that we don't interrupt this part of our pattern, but we still need to decrease. So here is stitch 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we need to work our post. So here we are at 5, 6, 7. Now we're at stitch 7. Now we need to work one more post stitch. But if we were keeping up with our sequence, this would be stitch 8 and 9, and we would decrease these two guys together. We don't want to do that because we want to, this will mess up our post stitch pattern. So we've got stitch 7, so you're going to count stitch 8. And then we're going to count stitch 9. Right there, as we normally would. Okay, so now we are at our next sequence, but we still have not decreased for this sequence of 9. So what we're going to do is we are going to do this. So yarn over, so this would be stitch 1. We're working a decrease, stitch 2. Okay, so you're still keeping your count, and then work your decrease, just like that. And now we are at stitch 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're going to go back to decreasing in stitches 8 and 9. So here's 8 and 9. So technically for that sequence we decreased twice, but we still kept with our count of 8 and 9, and it didn't interfere with our post stitches here because we want to keep up with this pattern. I don't want to decrease in this, so we want to keep this up, but we still need to decrease so, you know, all the math works out. You know, that darn pesky math. So I'm just going to finish up my round. Okay, so I just want to show you for that round we're still decreasing in 9. These are my stitches 8 and 9, so everything worked out, even though we just kind of fudged it a little bit, but we didn't really. We still kept with our sequence, we just kind of shifted things around. So we're going to finish that off, and I'll pop my stitch marker back in because these rounds, as you can see, are pretty seamless, and if I don't have my stitch marker, like, I would have no idea where these rounds begin and end. So stitch marker really comes in handy. Alright, so now we're going to begin our next round. So after that we would have a total of 48 stitches. We started with 54, now we have 48, and we are going to continue in a sequence of 8. So stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 and 8. So our hat is getting smaller, just what we want, taking on that hat shape. So stitches 7 and 8. And I will just continue with this sequence of 8. Okay, so we are getting close to these post stitches with this sequence of 8. So let's just see where the stitches land, and we will figure out how to play around with our sequence once we get there. So here's stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 6, we're around the post stitches, 7. Now this is where we would decrease, but we don't want to. We don't want to mess up our pattern here of our post stitches. So we're at 7, and we're going to continue on with stitch 8. So we've completed our sequence of 8, but we still need to work another post stitch. So what you're going to do is you're going to just count 1, just like that. Excuse me, just like that. So we have now completed our sequence of post stitches, what we want. So this would be stitch 1. Now I could, if I wanted to, decrease here, but then it might put a little bit of a gap there. So what I'm going to do is, it's all about, you know, you want your hat to have a finished, polished look, so you just kind of have to think about these things. So this is 1, we're going to work stitch 2, and now I'm going to decrease in 3 and 4 because we have to catch up now. So here we're going to decrease, so 3, 4. Now I'm going to work 5, 6, and now I'm going to decrease again, 4, 7, and 8. And now we're right back where we need to be. And I believe we are on our last sequence because there's my stitch marker. So hopefully all of the numbers will shake out here. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and yes, because these are our last 2 stitches and we need to decrease. So 7 and 8, and after this round we will have a total of 72 stitches. And I'll pop that in there because I definitely need to mark my last stitch. And that round is completed. So for me, I've completed round 19. So now we need to decrease a sequence of 7. So here we go. So here's stitch 5. And then stitches 6 and 7, I'm sure you've guessed by now. Just pop in those decrease stitches. And we are going to keep going and we'll see where we land with our post stitches. Okay, so we are getting close to these post stitches, so let's see how things are going to work out here with this sequence of 7. So here's stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it looks like this is not going to work because it's going to interfere, so just continue with your count. So we have 5, 6, now we need to work our post stitch, so this would be stitch 7. Now we're going to have to play catch up, but first we have to continue with this. So this is 7, so now this is stitch 1, 2, 3. Now I don't want to work a decrease here because that might provide too much of a gap and we don't want that. So we're at 3. So here we are at 4. So I'm just going to keep with this pattern. So 4, 5. Now I'm going to work a decrease 6 and 7, but we're still short a decrease. So what I'll do is I'm going to work stitch 1, then I'm going to decrease again to catch up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're at the end, and now we're caught up for 6 and 7. Oops, 6 and 7, and now we will have 36 stitches. And see, now we haven't interfered with, oops, where is it? So that still is keeping up with the pattern right there, which is what we want. Okay, so now I have finished up my round 20, and we are going to continue with decreasing a sequence of 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're at 5 and 6. Getting close to the end of this hat, which is great. It's always fun when you get close to the end. So 1, 2, 3, and bump the camera, 4, 5, and 6. I don't think we'll have to worry about our post stitches just yet. So here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Just like that. And let's see how we are here. So you might just want to count and see. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5 and 6. It's going to create, well, yeah, it's a little close for my taste of here. So what I want to do, and then because we don't have much left here to put all these extra decreases in, so what I think I'm going to do, alright, so what we're going to do is we are going to go 1, 2, and I'm going to decrease now so that it doesn't really interfere with that. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the nice thing with this stitch pattern is, and this method of decreasing, like you can't even really tell, which is great. That's what we want. It's like invisible. So now we have 6, so let's continue with our pattern. We are at the post stitches. So here is 1. So now we need to work post stitches. So 2, 3, 4. Now technically we should be decreasing, but we are not going to yet because we have to finish the post stitches. So 4, 5, oops, 5, and then we need to work one more, 6, just like that. Alright, so now we need to catch up with our decreasing. So I'm going to decrease right here. So here is stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we're back in sequence 5 and 6 to decrease. So sometimes it's just a little bit of planning ahead, thinking ahead, knowing where you are in the pattern. And it just helps for me, like I don't talk out loud when I'm making a pattern unless I'm, of course on camera. But if just mentally in your head, if you're just counting your stitches, then it can help you out as to where you are. And we're going to pull through, and then we've completed that round, and we have not interfered with our fun pattern of, how it's slanting up of our post stitches. Okay, so now we are at our sequence of 5. And I believe I'm at round 21. So we are just going to start. So we have 30 stitches. So we're again doing a sequence of 5. So here's stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. One, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So work one stitch like that, just normal. And then I'm going to do, so that's stitch 1, 2, and 3. And then I think I'm going to do 4 and 5, just like that. So now I've actually decreased twice. Let's try to do a little catch up here. So here is stitch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, I'm getting out of frame there. Sorry about that. So I believe that was 4. So let's do, we have to work a post stitch 5. Oops, I'm losing where my stitch marker is. Get back in there. Out of frame again. And just work our post or our regular stitch there. So I'm going to decrease just in the last 2. So we actually might be off a stitch, but I think that's going to be okay because it's not going to interfere with our post stitches and we don't want them to be interfered. I have a fuzzy. I'm just like a hot mess right now. So if the count is a little bit off, that's okay. We just don't want our, our post stitches to be messed up. Just like that. And everything is still nice and neat. Okay, so believe it or not, we do have the correct amount of stitches after that fudging that we did, working some of the decreases before we got to our post stitches. So I have 24 stitches. If you don't have 24, that is okay. I really like the length of this hat. So now I'm going to close up this hole. It's not too big, so it should be pretty good to close now. So if you've seen some of my other videos of working hats bottom up, then you've seen this technique that I use to help close the hole, and I also have a YouTube video, and I'll put it down below for you to check it out if you want. But anyway, so we are going to need 1 hook. You need at least 2. So you need at least 2 hooks. It has to be close in size, doesn't need to be the same size. So I'm going to use my H, and I have an I. A G hook would work well, or a J. I wouldn't go any larger or smaller than that. So we're going to continue working in the 3rd loop. So you're going to put your hook in. You're going to keep just working loops onto your hook. Just like that. We're not working any off. We're keeping them on, and you're going to put as many loops on your hook as you can fit. So just bunch them up on there, crunch them up. So some people might need 3 hooks, but I think I can manage this with 2. I'm going to give it a shot. This yarn is squeaky. Guess it's that good old acrylic, you know, that workhorse acrylic yarn that's pretty indestructible. Some people hate it, but it's pretty versatile, I think. So I've just about fit as many loops as I can, maybe 2 more. So here's 1, and then 2. So let me, whoops, bumping the camera. And now I like to try to fit on another one, so let's see if we can do it. It's kind of hard to try to stay in frame and do this at the same time. And I think that's as good as we're going to get for that one, so I'm going to grab my other hook. What you'll want to do is find your next loop, so here it is right here, and then continue to pull up the rest of the loops. Now if it's too difficult for you with the 2 hooks, then certainly grab another one and you can finish up pulling up your loops. I have used 3 at times, or even if you want to use 4, if you just don't like how crowded it gets. Okay, so as you can see, I have all my loops on my hooks there, and if you have another hook, that's quite all right. So now we need to work off these loops. So what you want to do is you're going to yarn over, and this is something that you don't want to rush through, so just take your time, and you're going to pull through all of these loops. So it's almost like a giant slip stitch here. So I've worked off all of those, so now I'm going to attach that loop to my hook, stay in frame. Having trouble with this pattern with that, sorry about that. And pull that taut. And now we need to work off the rest of these guys, so I think I need to have that a little bit more snug on my hook and just continue to work through. So if you just want to do a couple at a time. And the reason why you want to take your time is because you don't want to have to start over. You kind of want to do it on the first try. Because that's happened to me before, and it's a pain when you have to start over. So we're almost done. And here's my last one. So pull that up. Here's my tail. Snip that. Pull that through. Give it a tug. And then you have a nice, neat finish right there. And then what I usually like to do is just not bump the camera, take my hook, pop it through that hole, take the tail, and pull that guy through, give it a good tug, and now you have a nice, neat finish to your hat. So I hope you enjoyed this pattern. This is probably one of my favorites that I've done in this series. I think it's a simple but fun pattern. And if you want to add a pom-pom or some other embellishment up there or keep it simple, that's completely up to you. Thank you so much for watching.